Hello everyone, I'm Santiago and today I'm gonna be testing F124 on the Steam Deck. First of all, thanks to EA and Microsoft for providing a code of the game. This game is also available with your Gamepad subscription, which allows you to get EA Play, so thanks to them for providing access to the game. So let's get into it right away. Unfortunately, as you can see right now, the game is unsupported. And why is that? Well, anti-cheat. EA has been adding some specific anti-cheats to our latest games. So this is one of them. So SteamOS is not supported. Let's hit play and see what happens. After a few seconds we get this error message. So Steam Deck is not supported by this application, Wine Proton. Okay, so we gotta try Windows. SteamOS, unfortunately, due to the anti-cheat, we cannot even launch the game. So let's jump into Windows. Okay, although the recommender AMD graphics driver, we have a custom driver from Valve, so doesn't matter. Let's hit yes. Okay, and we're in. So for the video settings, we're using 800p, then FSR2 on quality. There's also XeSS or no upscaling, but in this case, we're going to need it. Dynamic resolution is nice to have, but due to the low VRAM that we have available in comparison to how much the game uses, I highly recommend you do not use dynamic resolution. Then when it comes to settings, it's basically medium. As you can see, ray tracing quality is on medium, but it's actually disabled because all the options are off, so you cannot go below medium on this, but don't worry, ray tracing is completely disabled. And it's a mix between medium and low. So low preset as a base, and we got low textures, BRS, and that's basically it. So let's do a collection of different races and camera angles so you can see what to expect, both on sunny conditions and rainy conditions. So we're now in Monaco, and the target, as you can see, is 6 FPS. Why is that? Well, in driving games, you probably want to target 60s. But there is a huge problem with this game on Steam Deck, at least under Windows. That is that every something like 3-4 seconds there is a big stutter on the frame time spikes, as you can see there. So we're close to 60, but in my opinion, probably VRAM limitation and system RAM limitation. We're getting those spikes in the frame time. I tried the lowest settings, a super low resolution. I tried basically everything, and that stutter doesn't go away, so I don't know what's going on. Unfortunately, at least in my opinion, that makes the game unplayable. Just the fact that every few seconds you get huge spikes in the frame time doesn't bode well, especially for a racing game. Games in general, but for racing games, I think it's a huge issue that actually shouldn't be happening. Also, textures on low don't look super great, and it's already using basically all the VRAM and almost all the system RAM. We only have a gigabyte, 1.9 gigabytes available from the RAM while playing the game like this. So it should have enough to not stutter like that. It also compiles shaders when it's launching for the first time. So really, I don't know what's going on. And unfortunately, it's a shame because usually F1 games look pretty good on PCs and don't run particularly bad in general. Of course, please do not target 30 FPS in a game like this, just because you're not going to have a good time. Now I'm doing the same race, but this time with rainy conditions. It's pretty unusual to play in these conditions, but I think it's a good stress test in general because there's particles in the air due to the cars getting that water into the air. Also, there's reflections on the ground, which you can completely turn off. Here in the lower presets, we actually, the reflections are not super obvious. It looks like the cars are kind of floating in the air, which is pretty funny. But if I cranked up those screen space reflections, the game ran below 50 FPS across the board, so it's a sacrifice that needs to be made. In comparison to a few years ago, usually when there is rain in one of the levels, you get like half the frame rate. Well, Luckily that's not the case, but the frame times are still spiking every few seconds, which again I think it makes it unplayable. Personal preference, of course. And as I was saying a moment ago, don't try to play this at 30 FPS. It requires reflexes, it requires you to pay attention and be able to do things straight away. So, but I mean, in my opinion, again, with the stutter like that, I'd rather not play the game. I mean, it's nice to be able to visit all these circuits and do the racing. But I don't know, just stick to F122 or F123 for the Steam Deck. At least those seem to be working on SteamOS, which is the big difference. This one requires Windows due to the anti-cheat. As you can see, I'm playing on Windows, which for most people is going to be a no-go, because for the Steam Deck, the main selling point, at least in my opinion, is that you just turn it on, goes to the main menu on Linux, you press on play, and you're into the game. Well, that's not the case on this one. You would need to install Windows, at least right now. Alright, so now we got the handheld mode. As you can see, we're still getting 60s, and the stutter is still there. It really depends on how much your car is moving, but it's moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour, so you're basically, yeah, you're basically SOL if you're trying to play this game like this. But with FSR2 quality, it still looks pretty good on the smaller screen, which I think is a great thing. At least that's the that's the takeaway. On the smaller screen, it looks good. It still stutters depending on the stage, more than in others. Monaco, as an example, runs worse than Australia, like we're seeing right now. The stutters are still there, but not as noticeable as before. Also, alternatively, you can enable VSync for a 60 frames lock. But yeah, I mean, Windows only, that's my takeaway. So you need to install Windows. Anti-cheat is what stops us from playing this on Linux. So that's the biggest downfall, at least in my opinion. And also performance, while you can hit 60 FPS with FSR2 on medium to low settings and the game still looks pretty good, those stutters every few seconds, especially in the more famous stages, really take it down for me. I mean, at least if the stutter was not present, especially in a racing game that requires your reflexes, I wouldn't have as big of a problem with it. So the takeaway is, the numbers look good, visuals look good, on the smaller screen especially, but it's really, yeah, I mean, it's a really hard sell when we're taking into account that it doesn't work on Linux or Steam Deck. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did taking a look at F124. I would just stick to the previous one in the franchise or the older ones. Those usually look better on the texture department and actually work on Linux. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys.